And good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Chalk Talk. I am your host, Kim Davis. Let's camera up a little bit. Welcome to Chalk Talk, everybody. It has been a busy week, right? And welcome. Thank you for being a part of the show. Super excited as always to have you here in the room. So listen, we're going to get to all the things. We're going to talk football. We're going to talk about Coco Gaugh in the U.S. Open. Super exciting match, a great tournament for Americans in tennis. Some history made in that tournament as well. We're going to talk about the Astros today and baseball and Jose Altuve being named the American League Player of the Week for the week he had last week. And the fact that the Houston Astros are in first place with a 2-game lead over the Texas Rangers and a 2.5-game lead over the Seattle Mariners. All of that is coming up on today's show. And of course, the devastating injury to Aaron Rodgers on Monday Night Football last night in a loss, in a victory actually for the Jets over the Buffalo Bills. But first, as always, we're going to talk about the people that help us do this each and every week. And I'm also going to highlight or spotlight different businesses in the community that I've had a chance to encounter, and I just want to share them with you. So for starters, our good friends over at I Love Jinka. Great things happening. You heard one of the co-founders on a few weeks ago, Kim Edwards-Williams, talking about new products they have coming out and encouraging you to continue to support them. And I'm encouraging you to do the same. They are a longtime partner of Chalk Talk. You can find the products in HEB stores all over Southeast Texas. And if you're not in Texas, or if you're not in Southeast Texas and you're like, I do want to experience this Jinka product, you talk about this turmeric paste and powder and capsule, how do I get it? Well, you can get it at their website, ilovejinka.com. But if you're around in HEB, here is where you can find it.
Here at HEB, in the Healthy Living Department of Probiotics, you can find Jinka 7 days a week.
Yeah. Look at a Jinka sale. Look at that. Jinka.
And of course, there are Kimmy Treats. You can get them online at kimmytreats.com, or you can get them in Houston at Sunshine's Vegetarian Deli over on Old Spanish Trail. You'll be happy to know that I have replenished the stock. All the flavors of Kimmy corn, which is the vegan truffle, the vegan chili cheese, and the vegan ghost pepper. Also, there are the Kimmy bars and the Kimmy cookies, those white chocolate gluten-free cookies that apparently people have been asking for. Everything's back in stock. So check it out today. Go by and get your Kimmy Treats. All right. So listen, here's a little bit of what's happening. The NFL season officially got underway last Thursday night, the first game of the season. But the first Sunday of the season was this past weekend. The Houston Texans traveled to Baltimore to take on the Ravens in a game that many thought or recognized would be a bit of an uphill battle for this young Texans team. And by young, I mean they've got a rookie quarterback. The offensive line is has some questions. They've got some injuries, some starters out. Right tackle Titus Howard is out with a broken bone in his hand. The rookie center Juice Scruggs, who stepped in after a veteran got hurt in camp, Juice was going to be the starter. He's out injured. So there's another person in that position. And then of course at left guard has been a big question. That's the Kenyon Martin spot Kenyon Green rather. I'm sorry, Kenyon Martin. That we find out the day after the cuts are made. He is going to be out on the IR for the entire season. And according to General Manager Nick Caserio, it was not a matter of if, but when, and they knew this back in May. So anyway, my point is the offensive line, which is super important anyway, but especially with the rookie quarterback, we knew he had some question marks. But this is what I will say. Although the Texans went into Baltimore and lost that game 25-9, it was, and I'm with you if you're going to say, Kim, there are no moral victories. I agree. But what I will say is there's reason for optimism. Okay. CJ Stroud in his first NFL regular season game looked promising. Okay. He didn't turn the ball over. I heard some folk talking on a station locally how well he held on to it a lot, and so that's kind of like a turnover. Yeah, but it's not a turnover. He didn't throw any interceptions, and that's important. The most important thing that you want your quarterback to do is to protect the football. I thought he looked pretty good. He started off a little slow, as to be expected, but he executed some plays. He looked pretty good. He did take some hits and he kept his composure. It's a start. And so it's a good place to start and something to build on. After the game, he talked about how he's got to be better in the huddle. He's got to be better in terms of getting rid of the ball. And he recognizes that it is a process. This team has also got to run the ball better. We know all of that. They ran the ball. I think CJ had 44 pass attempts, and Dameon Pierce, I believe, only had 11 rushing attempts. I will tell you that in terms of what those stats are. That is not the balance that this team wants. Head coach DeMeco Ryans has talked about how he wants this team to be. They want to run the ball. They got to run the ball, which is going to free them up and help them do some things with the CJ and the entire offense. So, speaking of DeMeco Ryans, here is DeMeco Ryans talking about really the offense that sputtered a bit. They got field goals, but they were not able to get in the end zone. He talked about the offense that he saw, that this team, that we saw in game 1 against the Ravens, and what the offense needs to do. Here's head coach DeMeco Ryans.
I think from an offensive perspective, as you can see, we can move the ball. All right, Poston, I thought CJ did a really good job of, going through his progressions, putting the ball exactly where it needed to be. He did some really good things for us. And operationally, I think pre-snap, we can be better, just getting in and out of the huddle quicker, right, getting up to the line of scrimmage quicker. So, when we snap it and we play ball, CJ can play with the best of them. So we just have to help him and speed that process up.
Speed that process up. Help him and speed that process up. Absolutely. It is. We talk about it being a total team effort. We know that is the case, and we've got to see more of that. The defense looked pretty good. They put some pressure on Lamar Jackson. They were able to keep him from just getting totally loose. And 25 points on the road against a good Baltimore team is not awful. The defense was flying around. They created some turnovers, had some takeaways, and that's what you want to see. Game 2 is this weekend at home in the home opener. The game should be sold out by now. It was just about sold out last week, and that is exciting. It's exciting for the franchise. It's exciting for these young players. And it's exciting for the city because it has been really a while since there's been this sort of a buzz around the Houston Texans. Now, here's the thing, and I said this last week. I was on with Isaiah Carey on the Factor, is that we have to temper the expectations. This is a process. This team nobody likes to use the word rebuild, but they are rebuilding this team. They've got some pieces in place. And so you got to ride with them. If you are really a fan, you've got to ride with them and hang in there. This is a team this weekend. They're playing the Indianapolis Colts, another young quarterback in Anthony Richardson, who is mobile. I'm not going to compare him to Lamar Jackson because Lamar Jackson has been in the league and he has been doing it. But it's going to be another mobile quarterback, and it's going to be a challenge for this team. It's a game that the Texans are favored at home to win, and it'd be a great win for them. Here is head coach DeMeco Ryans talking about the home opener and just the excitement about it and what he's hoping for, obviously, other than just a win, because the win is the ultimate goal. But here's head coach DeMeco Ryans talking about the home opener.
Well, when it comes to, playing at home, you want it to be a true home field advantage. And I remember playing here, and when we were rolling in 2011, our defense was rolling. It was a credit to the fans and them being here, being in the stands, being loud, especially on third down, causing havoc and confusion for our opponent. And we need that, right? On this Sunday, we need our fans to come out and show that support. Right? We need them to be in the stands. We need them to be loud, because that helps us. That gives us our competitive advantage, and we need our fans that are been supporting us. We feel that support, that we feel the energy from our fans that have been with us all throughout training camp, right, throughout the summer. Right? We felt the energy all around the city, and now we just need that energy, right, to transfer into the state.
So that is head coach DeMeco Ryans talking about the home opener and the energy and what he remembers in playing in the home opener and in front of fans in the stadium, because this is where he got his start in the National Football League. And so he's excited about it, and the fans are excited, and hopefully there will be an electric atmosphere in the stadium. It's just fun to watch games like that. It's fun to be in the building when there's a lot of energy. So that was him. Running back Dameon Pierce talked about kind of his role, his growth, and what he is doing, how he sees himself this year as opposed to previous years, and just the areas where he's seen growth. Here is Dameon Pierce.
Like last year, bro, like it's gonna sound so stupid, but it's small. That it's something I seen that me do. Like I'd never look at the sticks when I run. Never. I think in the preseason game, I'm like, man, let me see. 3rd and 4, I can get 4 yards. You know what I'm saying? I can get a little 4-piece. You know what I'm saying? Move the chains. Stuff, just little stuff like that, like situational football, like just being calm under pressure. Like that's really what it is. Just being prepared mentally as well as physically. Like, I was more, focused on physical last year. Like, oh, let me run through everybody. I'm gonna get something. You know what I'm saying? But like now it's more, okay, I'm running to this shade. Let me let my guys slide over. Let me help my lineman with setting up this block, and you know what I'm saying, just looking at it more analytically.
That is Dameon Pierce. Here's some numbers from the weekend. So I'm looking at the game book. So they didn't run the ball well. Dameon only carried the ball 11 times at 38 yards. That's not what this team wants, right? But you've got to get a push up front. In terms of passing, CJ Stroud had completed 28 of 44 pass attempts. He was sacked 5 times. His longest reception or completed pass was 26 yards, and that was to Nico Collins. He spread the ball out. He had Nico Collins with 11 targets, 6 receptions. Robert Woods, who he felt comfortable with really early, you could tell that. He had 10 he was targeted 10 times. He had 6 receptions. And then Noah Brown, Mike Boone, Pierce, Schultz. It was spread out pretty evenly among the other receivers and tight ends, and of course the 2 backs. But they've got to do a little better. There was a total passing yards of 242 yards. Not bad for CJ Stroud, but they've got to get in the end zone. So that's something that they've got to really work on. And in terms of defense, Steve Nelson had an interception, right? And so that was important in terms of a takeaway. Early in the game, you saw Will Anderson Jr. with a sack. You saw John Bernard with a sack. I mean, they did play well. They forced 2 fumbles and recovered 1. They put some pressure early on. I'm trying to find that number for sure. I mean, the actual number. So they had some costly penalties, especially offensively, holding early, yeah, you got to do better. The offensive line you can't not block great and then also get penalties. And it was veterans like a Laramie Tunsil. I mean, we'll just say it. He's gonna have to anticipate, right? But the holding just kills a drive. And they had some of that over the weekend. So they got some things to work on. A great start without having a win. I say great. I mean, it could have been, it could always be worse, but they look like, okay, this is a team that was in it to win it. They didn't go in. They didn't seem like the moment was too big for them. And I say that because there's so many rookies with key roles on this team, especially you've got a rookie quarterback in in CJ Stroud. And so what you get from him and the leadership and the command of the huddle and the respect he commands and the way his teammates respond to him, all that's important. And one of the things that's most important, you're going to always hear, you're going to hear it from me too. It is the communication, how they're able to communicate on that field, in the huddle, the best, the most, where they're most effective in their communication is going to help them be that. You're going to see that productivity on the field. So all of that is a part of it. You are listening to Chalk Talk. I'm your host, Kim Davis. There's been a lot happening over the weekend. Here we go. Hey, Lorenzo, it's been a while. My friend, good to see you. He says, Texans ain't had a good running back since Arian Foster. He's not that good to me. They need to draft a good one. Well, I am going to, glad to have you back. I'm going to respectfully disagree a little bit. I do think that Dameon Pierce is pretty good. I don't think it was a great day for the run game on Sunday. But I also think it always starts up front, Lorenzo. You know that. It always starts up front, and they were just not good on Sunday. They just weren't. And you say the receivers aren't that good. Their skill positions, you could say they should have gone out and added more to the running back, to the receiver room. I won't argue with you on that. They've got Nico Collins, who is in his third year, and there's hope that he's going to be the guy that, there's hope that this year he'll take that next step. He's had some injuries in his first couple of years. This is his third season. He's got the size and all of those things that you'd like to see from a receiver. Now he's got to step into that role and make some things happen. They brought in Robert Woods, to as a veteran. They've got Schultz as a tight end. But I am with you. Their receivers are not that receivers room, to me, leaves a little bit to be desired. We'll see what happens. They've got to shore up some of those spots. Tank Dell, the rookie, I think is going to be somebody that you can see, and it's going to allow them to, he's electric, right? But when you can get him in the mix, they've got young players. Xavier Hutchinson, I liked him during camp, but you don't want to just go with all rookies. You've got to have some veterans to go with this rookie quarterback and with this line that's not, let's just face it, it's not a super strong line. Lorenzo says, I think the pressure's got to start falling on the GM. Well, so the general manager, which was Nick Caserio, is responsible for assembling the talent, right? So I've said all along I was concerned, especially with the way the whole offensive line thing shook out, right? If you knew back in May that Kenyon Green wasn't going to be the guy this year, if you knew that in May, but you had him running with the ones all during the summer, and then at the end of camp, you say, well, we knew, yeah, we're going to put him on IR for the season. But if you knew in May, what was the contingency? That didn't make any sense to me. I can't figure it out. I don't know what the answer is to it, but it doesn't seem like that was handled the best. What was a contingency? And if you knew back in May, then why not just let him go ahead and start the healing, recovering process back then? And bring in somebody that could be a part of this offense, especially on this offensive line. It just doesn't make any sense. And maybe somebody out there that's smarter than me can help me understand it, but I just feel like that's a problem. Nick drafted him last, and I get it. It's tough. He was a first-round pick. I think it was the 15th pick overall in the 2022 draft. And so you expect those guys to come in and play and make some sort of an impact, right? I get it as a general manager, like, yeah, I can't, because it's almost kind of making, maybe you're saying, did I miss on this one? He struggled last year. And we could say, well, he had some injuries. Well, that's how he was when you drafted him. So you brought him in. He had some injuries. When he played, he wasn't strong. He came into camp. I think those of us who stood around every day and watched him you're like, man, I don't know. I don't see anything that makes me say that Kenyon has taken that next step. Not piling on the kid. It's not his fault. The offensive line doesn't have the right pieces, right? Doesn't have everything they need. I just think that's a problem up front. He goes out and he gets Shaq Mason, and you pay Shaq as one of the highest in the league at his position, and he grades out, I think, as a 14 over the weekend, which, not to get heavily into numbers and stats, but what that means is it's not great. You're going to need that person to grade a lot better because it means he plays a lot better. So you didn't get a lot from Shaq Mason, right? You brought in Josh Jones. You brought in Fant, who I think did Fant get hurt in the game. Of course, you don't have Scruggs. That's not your fault that he got injured. You can't blame you for Titus Howard getting injured. Those things happen. But we can blame you for not having some better contingency plans at one of the most important groups of positions on this team when you have a rookie quarterback. I just think he missed that. Hey, good morning, AD. Thank you for that. I'd love to hear your thoughts, because I know we've had these conversations a lot. Lorenzo, Tank Dell is, I don't know. You guys, if you follow me, I do not cover the University of Houston. That's because of them, not me. And so I didn't see him a whole lot in person, but I like him. I don't know that he's overrated. No one said he's headed to the Hall of Fame or he's going to be Rookie of the Year. But can he play? I think he can. But Tank Dell is the least of your concerns. I mean, Tank Dell is going to be a bright spot on this team. Should they have done more in terms of some of the skill positions? I would say yes. I think two things can be true. They should have done more in terms of getting somebody ready in the receiver room, and Tank Dell is a bright spot on this team. I think that two things can be true. You sound like me, Lorenzo. Where is Rick Smith nowadays? Can they bring him in as an advisor? He did have some good talent, but you know how this works. There are egos involved. And so when a guy moves on, or when you decide to move on from a guy, you probably don't go back and get him, even though he was successful. And while there are people who would, even in this market, people that are a part of the media would pile on and complain about what Rick did, he hadn't done some of the stuff that Nick Caserio's done, right? Let's just be clear about that. There were some good things that Rick Smith did do. So I don't know where he is. I don't think, Lorenzo, that he is with the team. I don't know that would be something that they would do. And I don't know that Nick Caserio's ego would allow him to do that. And would Cal McNair say, hey, dude, Nick, you need some help? I don't know that either. I'm not saying he wouldn't. I'm just saying I don't know. But here's a name I want you to think about and just look it up, Lorenzo. His name is Malik Boyd. He's from Houston. He's a personnel guy. He's with the Bills right now, but he's been in the league a long time. He was with the Arizona Cardinals for many years as a personnel guy. He's somebody that could be helpful, right? That knows personnel, that knows talent. I'm just not super sold on Nick, and it's not personal. I mean, there's one of my classmates from high school who jokes with me about the Nick thing. It's not personal. I'm just not really sure. I've seen nothing really that says he's great at his job. I'm just saying we'll have to wait and see. But I think this offensive line situation, like this is you had the toolkit, right? You had the resources. And so for the most part, what's assembled as a team, I'm not talking about the first round, right? That's pretty easy this year. But when you go back and look at some of his previous drafts and those that didn't make it and moves he made and those players that aren't here, it kind of makes you scratch your head and say, what is happening? I don't know what the answer is. But yeah, he's got to be feeling a little bit of the heat. If he's not, he should. He signed a crazy contract, right? Not crazy for him, crazy for the team. I think he got 6 years. This is year 3. Right. Yeah, because this is his third coach in his third year. This is year 3 for him. I do think that there should be some And listen, it's been one game. Okay, there's a lot of season left, but the concerns, Lorenzo, that you bring up about the receiving room, I have those. My bigger concerns are about the offensive line because we've seen what happens when you bring in a young player and the line is not able to protect him. That can make or break the future, right? And so we'll see what happens. I'm expecting a different look this weekend. They'll be at home. They're in week 2. I believe that DeMeco will make some adjustments. Bobby Sloak will make some adjustments. I think this defense is going to continue to get better. It's the strength of the team is obviously going to be the defense. So we will see. Hey, good morning, Charles Lamar Drayton. Man, is there so much for us to talk about? You've got that impeachment trial going on in Austin with the Texas Attorney General, which is playing out like some sort of a reality show. And then you've got all the nonsense that's happening nationally with all of the indictments for the former president. And now the Republicans who have decided to start an impeachment inquiry into the current sitting president, Joe Biden. Oh my goodness. The fact that, let me just say this for 1 second, that people are in office with, good paying jobs and benefits. As an entrepreneur, I always look at that like, man, and they got paid benefits and paid vacation, and y'all not doing any work. Anyway, that's another show. Charles and I are gonna get together and talk about that, and we'll have that for you soon. But it is crazy. Absolutely, it's crazy. Lorenzo, I'm not really big on picking games because I'd have to sit here and go through the schedule. If I had to give you a number, and I'm not looking, let me just look at the schedule real quick because I think it's easier. If I look at the number, maybe they win 6 games is the number I think I've come up with. I thought the Colts is a game that they could win. I feel like going into Jacksonville Jaguar, that's going to be tough. I would pick Jacksonville in that game. And initially I thought, man, the Steelers are going to be really tough for them to beat. I'm not so sure. I never just really go totally against a team like the Steelers because of nothing else, is because of their coach. But they didn't look great in that game against San Francisco. They play at the Falcons. They play home against the Saints. So their first 6 games, maybe they win 2. Okay, maybe they can get 2 of those. Then they have a bye week. They go to the Panthers. That's a game that perhaps they could win. They play the Buccaneers at home. They go to the Bengals. That's going to be tough. That's not a game I picked them in. They play the Cardinals at home. That's a game that I think they should win. Then, of course, they also play at home against the Jaguars. Depends on how good the Jaguars are and how much growth this team has had by that point. The Broncos, the Jets, man, who knows about the Jets, right? We're going to talk about that in just a moment. The Browns, the Titans, and they finish with the Colts. I think maybe they get to 6 games this year. Maybe they double what they did last year. Somewhere around there, but I don't necessarily like the idea of that. I'm not so. Pickett as a quarterback. I think we thought he might be better in his second year because first years, I think it's tough to judge sometimes quarterbacks in their first year. But we will see. And AD says 2 words when there isn't a solid O-line. Yeah, David Carr. Listen. We saw what happened with David Carr, and whatever you think of him, you may say, man, he was just awful. But he was running for his life, like from the beginning. And I think you can ruin a young quarterback when the O-line isn't good. And it's tough to recover. And David Carr just never recovered. He never recovered. I don't know. I was having this conversation with somebody, and I'm not sure if it was you, AD, or someone else. I wonder how different David Carr's career would have been had he been with a different organization and had different resources around him, right? I'm not really sure about that. I wonder. So listen, talking about quarterbacks and talking about what's happening around the National Football League. Of course, if you watch the Monday Night Football, the Jets and Aaron Rodgers' debut as a Jet, playing the Buffalo Bills. Aaron Rodgers went down, 4 plays in and left the field, was carted off, left in the boot, And the results came back this morning. Let me just let you see this. This is what was reported this morning. Wait, where is it? Let's see here. It's coming. Okay. This is something that Adam Schefter sent out earlier. And Adam Schefter, of course, is the guy that one of the ones that pretty much has the answers and knows most things when it comes to the NFL. Adam Schefter reported this morning that an MRI confirmed today that Aaron Rodgers officially tore his Achilles on the fourth play of his Jets career. Rodgers' season now officially is over, and there are already questions about whether his Hall of Fame career is too. Man, that's tough, right? It's a tough way to go, and that's the thing about this game. You know, injuries are real. And Achilles, like when he went down and they recently did a X-ray and said, oh, they thought it was his ankle, but nothing was broken. But the way he went down and the look on his face, he must have felt and known something. It's tough. What is he, 39 years old? Does he say, I don't want to do all it takes to get back? Because it's not just getting in shape and training, it's rehabbing, which is hard. And Achilles tear is one of the toughest injuries to come back from. You know, it could be a year, it could be longer. Lots of speculations. I'm not a doctor, but it was such an unfortunate thing to see happen when he went down last night. And all you can do is wish him the best. And I'm not personally a big Aaron Rodgers fan, but I never want to see a player with an injury, and much less one that is a season-ending injury. You just hate that. And so best wishes to him. It's tough for the Jets, but the Jets did go on and win that game, which is something I think we have to talk about, right? They won it with Zach Wilson, who is I think he deserved the way he was maligned for his, not just how he showed up last year, but just how he on the field, but the way that he handled it, right? Last night he stepped in and the team rallied. He rallied the team. They said he rallied them and they were able to win. But let's talk about the Buffalo Bills. And let's talk about Josh Allen, who we keep wanting to say is one of the best in the game. And you know, maybe he is. And he's an elite. And I've heard people talk a lot about Dak Prescott to start the season. And they don't consider Dak Prescott to be elite, but Josh Allen is. And they talk about the turnovers of Dak Prescott. So I saw a graphic this morning when I was watching the Sports Center early. And they looked at the last year in terms of turnovers. The top 5 quarterbacks, of course, Josh Allen is leading that. But guess who wasn't on that list? Dak Prescott. So I always thought that last year, Dak's issue with turnovers was an aberration, right? It's not the norm. It's not what he's been historically, right? He's not been that guy historically. He has taken pretty good care of the ball. And so I think I just heard the people piling on about Dak and turnovers. But Josh Allen, this is what he does. And I think we still may see that AFC Championship game back in the day when he played, the playoffs, when he and Pat Mahomes battled it out. And then when they didn't they lose to Joe Burrow and the Bengals in the AFC Championship game that year, if I remember correctly? That was just epic. It was exciting. It was fun. But he's a turnover machine, and he was again last night. And so that team lost to the Jets when they had the biggest blow to their season, because all we've talked about all offseason is Aaron Rodgers and the Jets, and is this what it was going to take for them to get to the Super Bowl? That Jets defense is the real deal. We'll see what they do. Now there are all sorts of conversations. Do you stick with Zach Wilson? Who do you bring in? Do you bring in somebody to be a backup, or do you need somebody that's going to start? What are you going to do? This is where general managers have to earn their keep. right? So I'm interested to see what happens. We shall see. But speaking of defense, I would be remiss if I did not talk about those Dallas Cowboys on Sunday night and what they did when they went into New York also against the division rival New York Giants, and they just showed out. I mean, the Dallas Cowboys, what was the final, 40-0? The defense is the real deal, right? That defense is the real deal. I'm going to try to see if I can pull up that game. The stats from that game. That was okay. Hold on. Let me go to. So the final was 40-0. I wanted to see the stats from that game. Okay. So Dak Prescott, he didn't have a great game, but he completed 13 of 24 passes for only 143 yards, right? So it wasn't great, but he didn't need to be great. I want to go to the defense. So the defense finished with, where is the team? Oh, here we go. Okay. So they sacked the quarterback 7 times. There were 3 turnovers. The Giants turned the ball over 3 times, and it was also their special teams. Their special teams was just a beast. And when you talk about having to play all 3 phases of the game, you saw that on Sunday night. If you're a Cowboys fan, you got to be excited about that win. No, it wasn't great production or performance from Dak Prescott, but you beat the Giants on Monday Night Football in New York or in New Jersey, but in the Giant Stadium, 40-0. It was just a fair beatdown, and that's what I'm going to say about that. Wow. Other beatdowns, I won't say beatdowns, other things that happened in New York over the weekend. Coco Gaugh winning her very first Grand Slam tournament. The 19-year-old American won her first championship titles, right? She beat the number 1 player in the world, Sabalenka, in 3 sets on Saturday. It was a great match, and it was great to see her win it. The way she came back and won it, she lost the first set, she won the second set, and then in the third set, she just, you know, she was great. Sabalenka's stronger. I mean, you're not going to outpower her, but she played great defense, and she found her spots. It was great to see her play it. And then when she accepted her championship trophy, and she talked about her parents and her dad and just the support that she wouldn't be there without them. And she said she gave her dad credit. You know, Zena and I talked about it. It was great. You know, she made it clear, my father is why I'm here today. He gave me the scouting report for this match. You know, he brought in Brad Gilbert. She says, you know, my dad is a captain of our team. And he said at one point, you know, I've taken you to where I can. We got to bring in somebody else. And so he did. He brought in somebody else, but ultimately it's her dad. And I just was great because it's easy for media, and I say that although I'm a part of the media, it's easy for some media to want to then turn and pivot and give all the credit to somebody else. And while she acknowledged Brad Gilbert, she was like, it's my dad, which is why I'm here. It was great. The other thing that she did that was, you know, when she gave her speech and she talked about being grateful, and before she got to the speech, she on the side of the court, she got on her knees and she was praying. It was a very natural thing for her to do. And so when they asked her about it, I said, well, we know you're a person that has a lot of faith. And she said, yes, I do. I never pray to win. I pray to do my best and to give it all I have. I thought that was just awesome. And Tony Dungy actually called out SportsCenter online because SportsCenter said she was taking a moment to soak it all in. And he said, no, she was saying a prayer. She was praying. She was clearly praying. Anyway, good for her for being comfortable with who she is. She talked about people who have, you know, not thought, people who basically said that she, you know, wasn't going to do much, right? I guess we call them haters, but she didn't say that. She said people who hadn't, you know, they basically were putting a ceiling on how far she could go. And she said, you know, while people thought they were pouring water on my fire, you know, they were actually pouring gasoline on it. And she said, I've tried to handle this with grace. This is a 19-year-old. She gets it. And she said, but, she believes in herself and she's willing to put in the work, and good for her. I think this is the first of probably many. And I'm going to tell y'all this, unless it's happened this morning, because I've been looking, I'm still waiting to see Serena or Venus say something about Coco's win, right? Because every chance Coco got to talk about Serena and what Serena has meant to her as a leader, as a mentor, as somebody she looked up to, she did. Coco's the first teenager to win the U.S. Open since Serena did it in 1999. Before that, it was Tracy Austin. And of course, the media they asked her questions like, not are you replacing Serena, but try to make a comparison. And she would stop people at every step of the way and say, listen, Serena is the GOAT, right? I'm just glad to be a part of her legacy. The thing that I regret is that I didn't get a chance to play her, but she is the GOAT. And if I can do half of what she did in tennis, I'll be happy, right? That's how she's talked about Serena. And while Venus and Serena is posting about, I don't know, whatever the hell they posting about, y'all can't take a minute to congratulate Coco. Do better, right? Sloane Stephens, who's the last American to win the championship, because remember Naomi Osaka is I don't think she's Japanese, right? She plays for Japan. So Sloane immediately gave her credit and said, hey, congratulations. So proud of you. I was bothered by that. I'm just saying, come on, Venus, Serena, be the champions that we know that you are, right? You had a long tenure, Serena, in this game, and people supported you. Some maybe some didn't, but people like a Coco who looked up to you and revered you and supported you, you could say a little something. Congratulations, great work. You don't have to do some whole big epic speech, but that's just, I digress. I was bothered by that, but I was glad to see Coco be Coco, right? Also, Ben Shelton, who got to the semifinals. He defeated Francis Tiafoe in a quarterfinals match. I was hoping that this was going to be the year for Francis, but it was the first time that there were. So you had Ben and you had Francis on the men's side get to the quarterfinals. On the women's side, you had Coco and you had Madison. So it's the first time that there were 4 African Americans in the quarterfinals at the U.S. Open. It's 2023. I'm going to mention it because it's a big deal. And so good for all of them. Ben Shelton was fun to watch. He's young and up and coming. Ultimately, Djokovic won it all. He is truly a champion on the court. Not one of my favorite people, but there's no denying who he is as a tennis player. He has now won 24 Grand Slam titles. Kim said, wait, what? Yeah, I just, Serena and Venus, as great as they are as players and champions, can be, I don't know that I would say is hating, but they're a little selfish. I mean, they are. They're very much about them. And I think now is the time. How do you not say something about Coco Gaugh? And because she has, like she said, handled it with grace. And every time somebody has tried to be like, oh, well, you're the new and you're the replacement, and she does not bite. She's unequivocally says Serena is the GOAT. I'm just honored to be a part of her legacy. That's who Coco is. And so, I don't think they're mad about anything. I think sometimes when we're not in the spotlight, there's the other part, right? Where's your grace? There should be something that, you should be able to support her publicly. There's no reason not to. We see who Coco is. And so anyway, it's not their responsibility. I think they should do better. And you're right. It's a huge deal. Go back and share with Ray. I mean, the way she played, the way she's handled it, her interviews along the way, I just would like to see more from them. And that would be that's the thing I'm disappointed about. So I'm going to talk a little Astros real quick before I also talk about what happened with Kevin Porter Jr. and the Rockets. We'll get to that in a second. But the Houston Astros are in first place in the American League West. A week ago, they were tied for second place, so they had a great week. They lost last night at home against the A's. It happens, but they had a really good week. They're now in first place in the American League West. They're 2 games ahead of the Rangers, 2.5 games ahead of the Seattle Mariners, and they Jose Altuve was named American League Player of the Week. He had an amazing week last week. That honor is given out by Major League Baseball. It's the second time this year for him, and I think it's the 5th time overall, but I know it's the second time this season. He's having an amazing season, right? He really is. So Dusty talked about I cannot believe you said that. I'm the new John McClane. What is that? Is that good or bad? I'm not really sure how to take that, Kevin Walker. I need you to tell me. I can't remember what you think of John McClane, but love to know what you mean by that. But listen, I want you guys to hear from Dusty on a couple things. There was all this chatter about Dusty Baker not liking Chas McCormick, one of the outfielders for the Houston Astros. It's ridiculous, right? For a number of reasons. Dusty's a grown ass man, right? Why would he not like Chas McCormick? And so it's been an ongoing thing. There's a particular reporter. He used to write for the Chronicle, Chandler Rome. Now he writes for The Athletic. He's the Astros beat writer. He's not a Dusty fan at all. And so he's been kind of, churning this narrative about Dusty doesn't like Chas McCormick, and that's why he doesn't play him. So he wrote an article last week with all of these unnamed sources about, people inside the organization and outside. Those would be all the people on media and all of the radio guys who never go and cover the game, but read Channel Rome. Anyway, that are saying, man, why doesn't Dusty play Chas? He must not like him. He's hurting the team, blah, 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 blah. On and on and on. So here is Dusty addressing it the day after Chandler wrote his latest article. Here's what Dusty had to say about that again.
Don't understand where that's coming from at all. And it's caused kind of a shitstorm out there, which is unnecessary, totally unnecessary. And it seems like, if somebody got something against me, they ought to just use it against me and not use my players against me. I mean, that is so wrong. And as far as Chas not playing, Chas, you can ask Chas. I told him before he got hurt that Chas, you can have this job if you want it. I'm not going to give it to you, but if you want this job, you can take it. Then he got hurt. He was out 20 days. 20 days. Imagine how many more at-bats he'd have then. And then he said I hadn't played him. He's played 42 out of 50 games. That's one day off a week. Every 7 days. That's a lot of playing. And plus, I pride myself in putting guys in a situation where they were most likely to succeed. Whoever it is, offensively, defensively, and as far as his weight is concerned, if I had something against him with his weight, you could ask him. I wouldn't bring him banana pudding once a week. I stop by, this is it, I get him banana pudding. I go to L.A., not L.A., New York. I bring him banana pudding. So if I was concerned about a guy's weight, I would not bring him banana pudding, or maybe I help contribute to that. But I take care of my guys, and I appreciate it. People stop trying to help me manage because I think I know what I'm doing. And I take care of my players the same way they take care of me.
That was Dusty Baker. So I wanted to play that clip completely, totally unedited, right? And my goodness, I posted it and people had all these things to say. So then they were like, oh, that's not really true. He doesn't really mean that. What? So now Dusty's lying, but it's just ridiculous. And like Dusty said, if you got something against me, then this come from me, but don't try to use my players against me. But one of my sisters asked me a question that I thought I couldn't really answer it. She said, well, why did the Chaz guy, she doesn't know, she doesn't cover the team like that, follow the team that closely. Why didn't he just shut it down? And I was like, that's a good question. So he's kind of said, no, that's not, he hasn't just flat out said, no, there's no problem. So I don't know what that is. Or maybe, and I don't want to say that Chandler Rome, his sources are made up. I don't want to say any of that. I don't want to, I don't know Chandler like that. I know that Chandler, Chandler doesn't like Dusty. That's clear. I mean, I've covered the team for a few years with Chandler, and he clearly doesn't. And he has been like a dog with a bone on this Chaz thing, and Dusty just don't like him, and that's why he's not playing him. But if you listen to what Dusty just said, it makes good sense to me. So there was also a part of this article where he said, well, maybe there's a problem because Chaz is a little heavier this year. Not a whole lot, but a few pounds heavier than he was previously. And that's why Dusty also brought up the whole weight thing. Like I go to This Is It and bring him banana pudding. I don't know that you're doing that for a guy that you just don't like. Anyway, I think about the lineup. So last night in the lineup, all of the favorites. So Chaz McCormick was in the lineup last night. Yainer Diaz was in the lineup last night. Those are the two people that local media. And so I say the fans, but I don't blame the fans because they don't do this work. But local media complains about Dusty not putting in. And they still lost. They got no runs last night. They got beat at home, right? It was against the Oakland A's. I expect something different tonight, but I'm just saying, right? And for those, there are people online and they're media. One guy that I actually, I like him. I think he's a decent human being. And he posted something a week or two ago, and he started with, I love Dusty, but, and I was like, oh, here we go. That's kind of like, some of my best friends are Black. You love Dusty, but what? So he comes to the game, and I'm there the other day. I'm at my computer. He doesn't come a whole lot. He comes over and he wants to miss me with that, right? I know you follow Chandler and y'all think Chandler, you believe in Chandler. Well, I believe in Dusty. I'm not bothering you about your comments, and I don't really care what you think. It's getting to that point. It's just annoying, and it's disappointing that there are people who think that this Astros team won in spite of Dusty last year. Here's what I will tell you. Around the country and other real media markets, and I say that because sometimes I think this Houston market isn't, there are many who think Dusty is one who should be talked about as manager of the year. Let's look at what he has dealt with in this year alone. They started the season without Altuve. He was out, 40 games? Alvarez was hurt early. He's been hurt a few times. No Lance McCullers at all this season. Luis Garcia out for the season. So you had Luis Garcia, Lance McCullers out for the season. No Justin Verlander from the guys you had last year. Those three guys out of your starting lineup. So let's start there with your pitching. Then you are without Jose Altuve. I just told you he again was the American League Player of the Week. He's having that kind of season again. Yordan Alvarez, who's probably one of the best hitters. He is one of the best hitters in baseball. Started out on the injured list and has been hurt, on and off throughout the season. No Michael Brantley. You didn't have him until 3 weeks ago? He'd been out all season since last summer. You heard him say Chaz was out for 20 days. I mean, there's been so many injuries and that they were still close. The key was we got to keep playing. It's a long, long season. And no, you're not first from wire to wire, right? The Rangers were first to start the season. Now the Rangers are in second. I thought they would taper off. They have. Still time left. We don't know what's going to happen, but I still think this Astros team has a good chance to win their division. Here is Dusty talking about what he expects for this rest of the season. Like you're into September, you're in the home stretch. What's the plan? What's the goal? Here's what Dusty says.
That's same goal we had when we left spring training. I mean, we know it's a long race. I mean, you know, health is not really in our command. Some of it is as far as, you know, we keep track on innings and consecutive days and workload and stuff like that, but all you can do is do the best you can because there's no guarantee of anything about injury. The main thing is you got to do is keep them rested, but also hungry. You know, you got to be hungry for, I mean, we can see the finish line. It's a little ways off, but the finish line is a lot closer than it was in April, May, and June. And keep the, I don't have no trouble, you know, keeping the ultimate goal, you know, is to win it. That's why I said I always wanted to win. If I won one, I'd win two. So that's still the goal, same goal I had when the season started.
Nothing's changed, right? He started this season to win it, and that's what he's doing. Kevin Walker got jokes. He said, "You think if I played for Dusty, he might bring me some Kimmy treats?" He might. I talked to him yesterday, and I did promise him a pound cake. So I'm gonna hook him up with a pound cake. Kim says, I want some of that banana pudding right now. Stay focused. And yeah, I do. I believe in Dusty. I think that right. It's so interesting how these things can start just have a narrative of their own, but that's what happens. And many of the guys who have never gone out and had a conversation with Dusty, have never been there. And just on the surface, like, how petty would you have to be as a grown-ass man? You know, you want to call Dusty old, as a guy who's as seasoned as he is and has seen as much as he has, to not play somebody because he don't like him? Is that what happens? Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. But listen, before I get out of here, I do have to share this with you. One, the Astros are in action tonight and again tomorrow. They're playing the Oakland A's. It's Tuesday, Wednesday. Yet they have another homestand before the regular season's over. So we will see how this thing winds up. I think they're here because of Dusty. I'll say that and move on. So yesterday there was some news that broke about Kevin Porter Jr. He was arrested in New York. Kevin Porter Jr. is Rockets. Let's see here. Let me pull it up for you. He's a Rockets guard. He was arrested and charged with allegedly assaulting his girlfriend Monday. A team source did confirm that. He's charged with domestic violence. I'm not going to pull up the whole article. It's unfortunate. And, you know, KPJ he's had some challenges, right? Since he has, throughout his young life, he's 23 years old. And I don't know that he survives this as a Houston Rocket. I don't know. And listen, these charges are true. That's awful. I mean, obviously I'm never for a man hitting a woman. If you covered KPJ and you knew him, you would think, he's a pretty good guy. You know, there's some good things about him, but there's some things in his history in terms of anger issues that he has dealt with. He's charged with assault and strangulation, right? And here's the other thing. It's really in the NBA hands right now. The league is aware of it. They've said they don't really want to comment on it. Yeah, let's not do that. Stop sharing. So he has had a number of issues as a player, and he said 2 seasons ago, I remember at Media Day, that the Houston Rockets, he said, I think the Houston Rockets saved my life. And it's unfortunate that that's where it is now. The reports were that he was in New York with his girlfriend at a Midtown hotel, been out, came back, the door was locked. He went to the hotel front desk, and they let him in, and then whatever happened. He was arrested, and I think she ended up having to go to a hospital. Not good at all, not just for KPJ, but definitely for the young woman. I don't know if he survives it as a Houston Rocket, or if they just say, it's time for us to move on. He's got to get some help for those things that send him to that place with anger. He's had anger issues in college. He had him in Cleveland when he was there. He's a guy that has had some issues here, some that were never talked about publicly. And then the big public one was last season before last. So that was in 22, right? 21-22 season where he got into it with an assistant coach and left at halftime. So not great news for this Houston Rockets team, for the young woman who had to suffer that, right? Had to deal with it. And then for Kevin Porter Jr., you risk your future on not being able to control your emotions. So that's unfortunate. That's so unfortunate. Kim says Kevin Porter is a Taurus. Kim's a Taurus. And she says, Kim is my friend that obviously will tell you all about yourself once she knows what your zodiac sign is. Coco Gaugh is a Pisces. All I know is she's a Pisces and she is a U.S. Open champion, right? Arletha says, I'm going to make that banana pudding, but yeah, it's a wrap for him. However, he needs help for real. Yeah, he does need some help. It's unfortunate. I, as your boyfriend, have never done anything but love on you. Can put your hands on people? Grow up. Can't put your hands on people. Grow up. Grow up. I just had to make sure I read that right. Kevin Walker. Yeah, you can't put your hands on people, man. You can't do it. You can't do it. And it's, that I don't really have any words for it. Every time something like this comes up, we have this conversation like, it's not okay. And if you've got some anger issues or some stuff going on, or just one thing to say that the Rockets have supported, saved your life, then you need to get yourself some help. If the anger stuff keeps coming up for you, you need to get some help so that you can manage that. You cannot put your hands on people. And I do believe she had to go to the hospital. And I don't know if there's a broken bone. I don't want to, haven't seen the report, but I've read different things. So all I can tell you is there was an incident. A young woman was hurt. He was arrested. And now the league is saying they have to do their investigation, and it's up to the NBA before the Rockets can make any kind of decision. The NBA has to decide. And even if there are no charges or there's not any, it doesn't go further where he's some indictment and, found guilty of something, the NBA can still say in a domestic violence case, they can say, put you on administrative leave. They can suspend you or dismiss you or any of those things. Aletha says she heard scratches and choke marks. I did hear that as well. The whole thing all the way around is just not a good look. But listen, we are out of time for today. Thank you guys all for being a part of Chalk Talk. I will find out, Lorenzo, where Rick Smith is if I can. I've been trying to get him on the show, but I never got him on when he was working for the team. Maybe he'll be more open to it now. But I tell you, keep your eye on what's happening with this Rockets, with this Texans team. I think that their personnel is not as great as it could be. They've had some great resources. I say that. I'm not a huge fan of the work of Nick Caserio. That's not personal. It's just based on what I've seen from him. Give DeMeco and this staff something to work with. And I think he's fallen short. So we shall see. All right. Thank you guys. Thank you, Kim. Kim, it's good for you to be a part of the show. Welcome to the Chalk Talk family, Aletha. Great to have you here. I'll let Dusty know about that banana pudding. Maybe I can take him that when I take him this pound cake. And Kevin Walker. Look at there. I was trying to tell the people I love Kim. Oh, you're so kind. But you didn't explain the John McClain comment. I don't know whether I should be offended or if that was a joke or what does that mean? You got to tell me that, right? Okay. Anyway, thank you guys. Make it a great, great week. Remember, do something kind for yourself and do something kind for somebody else. Listen, we're going to be doing some, Aletha wants some popcorn. I got you. I actually have a fresh batch. You want the chili cheese? I got you, sister. I'll hit you when I get off the air so that I can make sure that you get your popcorn. Listen, I'm working on doing some Chalk Talk events during the season. On the weekends when the Texans are traveling, I'm thinking about doing games on, events where people come and hang out at a place, watch the game with me. I just got to figure out the place. I'm working it out. trying to get that all done. If you've got some ideas, or if you want to host a Chalk Talk event on a weekend, on a Sunday, the next away game is next Sunday. So that would be the 24th of, is it the 24th? Whatever that day is, right? So this weekend is the 17th. Yeah, it's the 24th. I'm going to have an event where you can come and listen. It'll be like a live ongoing Chalk Talk. I can kind of maybe help walk you through the game. I just got to find a cool place to host us and try to make it happen. If you got some ideas, hey, Andre, thank you for tuning in. And hey, I shared your comments with Zena about the U.S. Open and her doing the radio broadcast. I know she was very appreciative of that. Good to see you, my friend. But yeah, I will keep you guys posted. And also Isaiah will as well. Isaiah and I are going to talk about maybe where I can do something on Sundays, and he can come too, because he's pretty clueless about football, but he admits that freely. All right, everybody, make it a great, great week. Remember, get yourself some Jinka, right? You need to get some I Love Jinka in your life. It's great for anything that you have in terms of inflammation or gout or aches and joints and blood pressure, cholesterol, all of those things. You can get Jinka at HEB. You can get it in a paste. You can get it in a capsule. You can get it in a powder. You can also get it from their website at ilovejinka.com. And then don't forget about Kimmy Treats. You can get that at Sunshine's over near the medical center at NRG Stadium, or you can go online to kimmytreats.com. All of that, whatever you do, remember, do something kind for yourself, do something kind for somebody else, and make sure that you are registered to vote. Make it a great week, everybody. Peace.